You weren't invited before because you were broke, my daughter told me coldly, her voice flat, sharp, without hesitation. Now that you're rich, Merry Christmas. The line crackled in my ear, but the crack was nothing compared to the sound in my chest, the breaking of something I thought had already been long gone. For 20 years, Emma hadn't spoken to me. 20 long, bitter years. I called on her birthdays. She never answered. I sent letters when her father died. She never replied. I begged just to see my grandchildren, to hold them once, but her door always stayed shut. And now, after 2 decades of silence, the first words she had for me weren't, "I've missed you," or "I'm sorry," or even "Mom." They were about money. "Emma." My voice cracked as I clutched the phone. "That's the first thing you say to me? After all this time?" On the other end of the line, she let out a cruel little laugh. "Oh, please, don't be dramatic. I'm offering you an invitation, aren't I? A seat at Christmas dinner. That's more than you've had in 20 years. Be grateful." Grateful. I bit down hard on my lip, the coppery taste of blood filling my mouth. "Grateful," I whispered. "For what? For being ignored for half my life? For being thrown away like garbage because I couldn't give you the life you wanted?" She sighed, like I was a child bothering her. "You never understood, Mom. You were embarrassing. Do you know what it was like telling my friends my mother cleaned houses? Or explaining why you worked 2, 3 jobs while their parents drove luxury cars? I cut you out because you dragged me down." Her words slammed into me, each one heavier than the last. The air left my lungs. For years, I told myself she had her reasons. Maybe she was hurt. Maybe I had failed her somehow. But this wasn't pain. This was pride. My fingers trembled as I pressed the phone tighter against my ear. "And now?" "Now," she said casually. "Now you're worth something. Word got around you came into money. That means you can contribute, maybe even make us look good. So yes, you can come to Christmas. But dress nice. Don't embarrass me." The line clicked dead before I could answer. I sat in my chair, the silence of my living room roaring louder than any noise. I looked around at the walls, the photos that still hung there. Emma as a child, smiling with her father. Emma in her graduation gown. Emma holding her newborn baby. Pictures I had clung to even when she turned her back on me. I pressed my hand to one frame, my fingertips shaking. 20 years of pain, wrapped up in one invitation coated with greed. I could have cried. I could have screamed, but I didn't. Instead, I felt something else rise inside me. Not despair, not helplessness, but fire. "You think I'm still the woman you abandoned," I whispered to the empty room. "But you've forgotten who raised you, Emma. And this Christmas, you're going to learn that some lessons don't fade." I sat back, the spark inside me growing hotter, sharper, stronger. And to you, watching this, let me ask, what would you do if your own child abandoned you for 20 years, only to come crawling back when you had money? Would you forgive them, or would you make them pay? Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of my upcoming revenge stories. The night of Christmas, I stood outside Emma's mansion. It glowed like a palace, the driveway crowded with luxury cars. Golden light spilled from the tall windows, laughter rising and falling inside like music I wasn't invited to dance to. For a moment I thought about turning back. 20 years of silence, and now I was here, summoned like a servant, not welcomed like a mother. But then I remembered her words. "You weren't invited before because you were broke. Now that you're rich, Merry Christmas." I lifted my chin and knocked. The door opened almost immediately, and there she was. Emma. My Emma, though she hardly looked like the girl I once raised. She wore a red silk dress that shimmered under the lights, her hair styled like she'd stepped out of a magazine. A A wine glass dangled carelessly from her hand. "Well," she said, her lips curving into a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Look who decided to show up." My throat tightened. "You invited me." She gave a sharp little laugh, stepping aside. "Yes, well, don't make this bigger than it is. Come in." I stepped into warmth and noise. The house smelled of roasted turkey, honey-glazed ham, cinnamon pies, a feast fit for kings. Yet the moment I entered, the laughter faltered. Heads turned, eyes scanned me, sizing me up, whispering behind half-covered mouths. Emma clinked her glass to grab their attention. "Everyone," she called, her voice dripping with mock cheer. "This is my mother. Yes, that mother. She's finally decided to join us. Now that she's comfortable, of course." The room erupted in laughter. Some laughed politely, others cruelly. But it all hit me the same. My cheeks burned hot. One of her in-laws leaned over to his wife, not bothering to whisper. 20 years late to Christmas, but at least she's paying now, huh? Emma smirked, raising her glass higher. "Oh, she'll contribute. Trust me, we'll make sure of it." My stomach twisted. She led me to the table. The seating chart said everything. Emma at the head, her in-laws and friends clustered closest, basking in her glow. And me? I was placed at the far end, next to the children, as though I were no more important than a stranger. Dinner began. Plates clattered, glasses refilled. Conversations roared. But every so often, Emma's voice cut through, sharp as broken glass. "Careful, Mom. Don't spill on the tablecloth. It cost more than your old apartment. Don't mind her. She doesn't understand investments. Let's keep it simple." She's not used to wine like this. She used to buy... What was it, Mom? The cheap kind in boxes? Each jab landed harder than the last. My knuckles whitened around my fork, my chest tightening with every ripple of laughter that followed. At one point, my youngest granddaughter leaned toward me, her big eyes innocent. "Grandma, is it true you used to clean houses?" I opened my mouth, but Emma jumped in. "Of course it's true. That's all she ever did. But now," she gestured broadly, smirking, "she's finally someone we can be proud of." The table roared with laughter. I smiled faintly at the child, but inside, my heart broke. The meal dragged on, every bite of turkey and spoonful of potatoes seasoned with humiliation. I tried to join the conversation once, offering a memory of Emma as a little girl, but she cut me off mid-sentence. "Oh, Mom, stop. Nobody wants to hear those boring stories." The group laughed again, moving on without me. Finally, as dessert was served, Emma stood and tapped her glass again. Her eyes gleamed like a cat about to pounce. "I'd like to make a toast," she said, "to my mother. She may not have been around for 20 years, but money really does fix everything, doesn't it?" Glasses lifted, voices echoed. "To money." I sat frozen, my cheeks blazing, my eyes burning. My own daughter, the child I had carried, fed, sacrificed for, was parading me like a prize she'd won, not a mother she loved. I forced my hand to lift my glass, my lips curving into a small, tight smile. "To family," I said softly. My voice was steady, but underneath it, fire roared. They thought tonight was theirs. They thought humiliation was my role. But as I sipped that bitter wine, I swore this Christmas would not end the way they expected. When the laughter finally died down and the table shifted back into shallow chatter, I sat in silence, my fork untouched, my heart pounding against my ribs. 20 years. 20 years of silence, of unanswered phone calls, of holidays spent staring at the door hoping she'd knock. And now here I was, invited not as a mother but as a spectacle, the butt of their cruel jokes, the proof that Emma's greed had no bottom. I swallowed the lump in my throat and focused on my glass of wine. My hands trembled, but I refused to let them see it. They wanted me broken. They wanted me humiliated. But what they didn't know was that I had been broken before, and I had rebuilt myself stronger every single time. I glanced down the table. Emma was radiant, her laugh sharp, her gestures wide and theatrical. She was performing, showing off for her husband's family, proving that she had arrived. And in her show, I was nothing more than a prop. Her words replayed in my head, cutting me open all over again. You weren't invited before because you were broke. Now that you're rich, Merry Christmas. I felt the sting of tears, but I blinked them away. My tears were wasted on her. Instead, I thought about the last 20 years. The nights I worked 2 jobs, scrubbing floors until my back screamed. The winters I went without heat just to make sure Emma had tuition money. The sacrifices that left me hollow, invisible, discarded. And yet, through all of that, I had survived. I had built myself up again, quietly, patiently. Life had been cruel, but it had also been strangely generous. The inheritance, the investments, the hard lessons I turned into small victories. For years, I had nothing but my pride. Now, I had more than enough to ruin her illusion of control. My breaking point wasn't the laughter or the toast or even the whispers. It was the moment Emma leaned toward her friend, not bothering to lower her voice, and said, "She's so desperate for attention. Honestly, if she didn't have money, I wouldn't have called her at all." The words sliced clean through me. I looked around the table, at the people laughing, at the people pretending not to notice, and I realized something. Emma didn't just want my presence. She wanted my silence. She wanted me docile, grateful, pliable. But she had forgotten who raised her. I pushed my chair back slightly and reached for my bag. Inside was a folder I had brought, almost on instinct. A folder with papers Emma hadn't seen, my will, my investments, my plans. I had spent weeks preparing them, though I hadn't known why. Now I did. I thought about standing up right there, ending her performance in front of everyone. But no, not yet. Revenge wasn't a blunt weapon. It was a slow burn, a sharp knife you revealed only at the perfect moment. So instead, I sat back, letting her think she'd won. "Mom," Emma said suddenly, her voice loud, cutting across the table. "Tell everyone what you've been up to. You know, since you disappeared for 20 years. The table chuckled again, forks clinking on plates. My humiliation was once more her entertainment. I smiled faintly, my voice calm. "Oh, nothing worth telling. Just surviving." "Exactly," she said with a grin, raising her glass again. "Barely surviving, but now, finally thriving." The laughter rang out again, but inside, I wasn't laughing. I was building. That night, when I finally returned home, I sat at my kitchen table under the dim glow of the lamp. I spread the papers out before me. Bank statements, deeds, documents. For years, I had been careful, saving and investing. And now, I realized I could do more than protect myself. I could take everything Emma thought she wanted and twist it into something she'd never recover from. I picked up a pen and began to write. Small notes, instructions, changes. I redirected money away from Emma and toward causes that would humiliate her by contrast. Charities she despised, scholarships for children she mocked, trust funds for grandchildren she tried to keep from me. Every stroke of the pen was a strike back. Every line was revenge written in ink. By the time I was done, the fire inside me had settled into something colder, sharper. Emma thought Christmas was her victory lap, but she had no idea the race wasn't over. And when it ended, it wouldn't be her wearing the crown. The following week, Emma hosted another gathering, a post-Christmas dinner meant to flaunt her family's success to her neighbors and in-laws. Invitations were sent, wine was ordered by the crate, and she spared no expense decorating her home. But what she didn't know was that I had prepared something far more dazzling. When I arrived, Emma looked startled for a moment, then recovered with her usual smirk, Well, well, you came again. Twice in 1 week. Don't get used to it, she said, her voice sharp enough for others to hear. Her guests laughed politely, the same cruel chuckles that had pierced me days before. But this time I didn't flinch. I looked her straight in the eyes, my lips curving into a faint smile. Don't worry, Emma. I won't. Dinner went the same as before. Emma talking loudly, stealing the spotlight, throwing subtle insults my way to keep the crowd entertained. She was comfortable, smug, sure of herself. She thought she had me cornered. Halfway through the meal, she clinked her glass. I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. And of course, a special thanks to my mother for gracing us with her presence. The crowd clapped. I stayed seated, my face calm. Stand up, Mom, Emma urged, her smile tight but commanding. Say something. Tell them about your new lifestyle. The laughter bubbled again. I pushed my chair back slowly and stood. All right, I said softly, my voice carrying farther than I expected. Since you asked. The room quieted. Eyes turned toward me, expecting another humiliation. Emma smirked, sure she was about to watch me fumble. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin folder. The same one I had studied by lamplight, my revenge written across its pages. I want to make a toast, I said, lifting a glass of water. To family, the people who are supposed to stand by you no matter what, the people who should never forget the hands that fed them, clothed them, raised them. Murmurs rippled through the room. Emma shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I opened the folder, flipping a page. For 20 years I was forgotten, humiliated, laughed at. And now, when money is in the picture, suddenly I'm invited back. But here's the truth Emma doesn't want you to know. She didn't call me because she missed me. She called me because she thought she could use me. Gasps echoed around the table. Emma shot to her feet, her face red. Mom, that's enough. No, I said firmly, my voice rising. It's just the beginning. I pulled out the first paper. This here is my will. Emma expected she would inherit everything I have. She told her friends, her in-laws, maybe even some of you, that she would live off my money one day. But last night I changed it. Every cent I saved, every investment I made, every asset I built, is going to charity, scholarships, and my grandchildren directly. Not a dime for Emma. The room gasped again. Emma's husband stiffened beside her, his jaw tightening. I continued, my words sharp as knives. You all laughed at me the other night when Emma said I was finally useful. But here's what you don't know. While Emma has been busy parading me as a joke, I've been buying, quietly, patiently. The villa she bragged about? It belongs to me again. The land she thought was hers? Signed back in my name? The money she hoped to grab? Already gone where she can never touch it. Emma's face drained of color. You're lying, she stammered. I looked at her calmly, then handed the papers to her husband. See for yourself. He scanned the documents, his face turning pale. His hands trembled as he looked up. She's not lying. The room erupted into whispers, shocked gasps, wide eyes darting between Emma and me. Emma lunged forward, her voice shrill. You planned this! You humiliated me on purpose! I met her gaze, steady and unflinching. No, Emma, you humiliated yourself. You forgot that money can buy a seat at the table, but it can't buy respect. And respect once lost is gone forever. She collapsed back into her chair, her face buried in her hands, the room buzzing with judgment. Her in-laws whispered furiously to each other. Her children stared at me with wide, confused eyes. I lifted my glass again, my voice calm and final. To family, I repeated. The ones who matter and the ones who don't. The silence was deafening, and in that moment, As Emma sat broken and exposed before the very people she sought to impress, I felt the weight of 20 years lift off my shoulders. The room was silent after I handed the papers to Emma's husband. He scanned them with trembling hands, his face growing paler with each passing second. Finally, he slammed them shut and looked at his wife. "She's not lying," he said flatly, his voice dripping with disbelief. "Linda owns everything." Gasps erupted around the table. Forks clattered against plates. Someone muttered, "My God." Emma's face went from crimson to ashen. She shot up from her chair, pointing a trembling finger at me. "You planned this. You came here just to humiliate me." I leaned back, calm, steady, my voice low but cutting. "No, Emma. I came here because you invited me. You just forgot that every invitation has a price." Her hands shook as she turned to her husband. "You believe her over me? She's manipulating you." He cut her off sharply, slamming his fist on the table. "Enough, Emma. You told us she was broke, that she had nothing, that we didn't need her." His voice cracked with anger. "You've been lying to us, to me, to everyone." Emma's in-laws were already whispering furiously. Her mother-in-law clutched her pearls, her eyes wide with disgust. "This is shameful," she hissed. "You paraded us in front of your mother, mocking her, while she held all the cards? What kind of daughter treats her mother this way?" Emma's lips trembled, but no words came. Then a small voice pierced the air. Her youngest child. "Mom," the little girl whispered, staring at her with big, confused eyes. "Is it true you only invited Grandma because she has money now?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Every guest's gaze shifted to Emma. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her eyes darted around, searching for an escape. "Yes," her husband snapped before she could lie again. "That's exactly what happened. And we all know it." Emma's shoulders sagged as though the air had been punched out of her. I sat still, watching her crumble, but I didn't need to say a word. The truth was dismantling her piece by piece. Her eldest son, a teenager, pushed back from the table, his chair scraping loudly. "This is sick. You made us laugh at Grandma. You made us treat her like a joke. How could you?" His voice cracked with anger, shame, and hurt. Emma tried to reach for him, but he pulled his hand back. Her in-laws looked away, their faces tight with judgment. Guests whispered to each other, some shaking their heads, others gathering their coats. One woman muttered under her breath, but loud enough for all to hear, "Imagine treating your own mother like dirt just for money." Emma's husband stood abruptly, his chair toppling over. "Enough of this circus. I won't be part of your games anymore, Emma." He turned to me, his face still pale but firm. "Linda, I'm sorry for the way you were treated." I inclined my head, calm as ever. "Don't apologize for her mistakes." Emma's breathing grew ragged, her mascara streaking as tears finally spilled down her cheeks. She spun on me, her voice cracking. "Please, Mom, stop. You're ruining everything. You're destroying me." I finally rose to my feet, my gaze steady, my tone sharp but measured. "No, Emma. You destroyed yourself the day you chose pride over love. You ruined yourself when you abandoned your mother for 20 years, then brought her back only as a wallet. Tonight isn't my doing. It's your own reflection staring back at you." Her sobs filled the silence. She collapsed into her chair, shaking, her once perfect red gown now wrinkled and pitiful. One by one, guests excused themselves. Chairs scraped, coats rustled, the door opened and shut again and again. What was supposed to be Emma's crowning glory, her glittering Christmas dinner, dissolved into a graveyard of abandoned wine glasses and half-eaten plates. Her in-laws were the last to rise. Her mother-in-law leaned close, her words like venom. "We will never forget this shame, and we'll never forgive it." With that they left, slamming the door behind them. The house that had been filled with music and laughter minutes before was now heavy with silence. broken only by Emma's muffled sobs. Her husband stood rigid, arms crossed, staring at her with cold fury. Her children huddled together at the far end of the room, their eyes filled with hurt and confusion. And me? I stood calm, steady, untouched. This was the fallout. This was the collapse. Emma wanted me to be the one humiliated, but she had orchestrated her own downfall, and all I had to do was let her. I walked slowly toward the door, my footsteps echoing in the silence. Before I left, I turned back, my voice steady but sharp as glass. "Merry Christmas, Emma. You said money was the only reason I was welcome at your table. Tonight, you learned what money can't buy: respect." Then I walked out, leaving her shattered world behind me. The night after the Christmas dinner, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the papers I had signed just days before. My pen was still there, the ink still fresh. But something inside me told me the humiliation Emma suffered at dinner wasn't enough. No, it was too easy. A single evening of shame wasn't enough to pay for 20 years of abandonment. I wanted Emma to feel what I had felt all those years: invisible, unwanted, discarded. And I wanted her to know it wasn't an accident. It was the deliberate choice of the mother she had mocked. So I began making calls. The first was to my lawyer. "I want the donations processed immediately," I told him. "Scholarships, shelters, hospitals. Make it public, make it loud, and make sure Emma's name isn't anywhere near it." He paused. "Do you want it anonymous then?" I smiled, though no one could see it. "No, I want it known that it's in my name. Let them see that while Emma laughed at me, I was lifting others." The second call was to the local newspaper. A journalist had been hounding me ever since rumors spread about my inheritance. I agreed to an interview, but on one condition: the story had to highlight how I had been estranged from my daughter for 20 years, yet chose to invest in children who weren't even mine. The irony would not be lost on anyone. By the end of the week, headlines screamed, "Mother disinherited daughter after 20 years of estrangement, donates millions to charity." Emma's humiliation at Christmas became gossip, but the article made it scandal. Her neighbors whispered louder, her friends stopped calling. The people she had worked so hard to impress now avoided her like a stain. But I wasn't finished. The following Sunday at church, I made a quiet announcement. I had funded a scholarship in the names of my grandchildren, Emma's children. Each of them would one day go to college free of charge, but Emma herself would have no control over a cent of it. The congregation applauded, people smiling warmly at me. Emma wasn't there, but word traveled fast. That evening, my phone buzzed with a message from her eldest son. "Grandma, thank you. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry for how we treated you." I held the phone to my chest, tears pricking my eyes. For the first time in years, I felt seen. But still. There was one more card to play. At the next neighborhood gathering, where I knew Emma would try to show her face again, I arrived with a quiet dignity. I wore the same dress from Christmas, but this time I held something else in my hands: the official letter of my will. As I greeted old friends, I made sure the letter was visible. People asked, curious, and I smiled. "Oh, it's just my will," I said sweetly. "I had to update it, you see, since my daughter assumed everything would be hers. But now it's all going to charity and the grandchildren directly. Nothing for Emma." The whispers spread like wildfire. Emma arrived late, her face pale, her smile brittle. She tried to chat, to mingle, but everywhere she turned, people glanced at her with pity or disdain. One woman patted her arm and said, "It's a shame, dear, that your own mother trusts strangers more than you." Emma froze, her lips trembling. She excused herself quickly, but the damage was already done. Later that evening, she showed up at my door. Her face was streaked with mascara, her hair disheveled. She didn't knock, she banged. "Mom," she cried, her voice breaking. "Please, you can't do this to me. You can't leave me with nothing. I made mistakes, yes, but I'm still your daughter." I opened the door slowly, studying her. For the first time, I saw not the powerful, untouchable Emma she had crafted, but a desperate woman stripped bare of her illusions. "I already did," I said calmly. "And Emma, this isn't about leaving you with nothing. It's about giving everything to people who know the value of love. You lost that value a long time ago." She dropped to her knees on my porch, sobbing. "Please, don't leave me out like this. I'll change. I promise. Just don't take it all away." I bent down slightly, my eyes level with hers. "You left me out for 20 years, Emma. Tonight I'm just returning the favor." Then I shut the door. Her cries echoed in the night, but I felt no guilt, only peace. In the weeks that followed, the echoes of that Christmas never faded. Emma's mansion, once the hub of lavish dinners and parties, grew quiet. Cars no longer lined her driveway, and invitations she sent were politely ignored or never answered at all. Her in-laws, humiliated by her lies and greed, distanced themselves almost immediately. Her husband, though he stayed under the same roof, treated her with a coldness sharper than any blade. Whispers spread like wildfire. The daughter who disowned her own mother. The woman who mocked her family for money. Emma tried to salvage her reputation, posting pictures of happy family moments online, plastering on smiles at the grocery store. But it was useless. The truth had burned too brightly to be hidden again. And me? For the first time in 20 years, I felt light. Not because of money, not because of revenge, but because I was free. Free from chasing her approval. Free from the guilt of thinking I was the one who failed. One evening, I sat by the fire with a cup of tea, watching the flames flicker. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Emma's eldest son. "Grandma," it read, "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I just want you to know, I don't agree with what Mom did. Thank you for the scholarship. I'll make you proud." Tears pricked my eyes as I typed back, "You already have." It was then I realized, revenge wasn't just about tearing Emma down. It was about reclaiming my voice, my dignity, my place in the story. For so long, she had painted me as a burden, as an embarrassment. But now, the truth was undeniable. I was the one who stood tall when everything else crumbled. The best part wasn't that Emma lost. The best part was that I won back myself. Still, I won't lie. There was a certain satisfaction in knowing Emma was left with nothing but the bitter taste of her own choices. Every time she saw a headline about the charities I supported, every time her children thanked me for their future, every time her neighbors looked at her with pity, it was another reminder that greed always destroys itself. I thought back to that night at Christmas dinner when she raised her glass and toasted to money. How smug she had looked. How small she looked now. The irony wasn't lost on me. And so, as I sipped my tea, I whispered to myself, "They thought they buried me, but they forgot I was the seed. And seeds always rise." I leaned back in my chair, the weight of 2 decades finally lifting, replaced with a quiet strength. I didn't need Emma's apology anymore. I didn't need her love. All I needed was the knowledge that I had survived and thrived, despite everything. And to you, watching this, let me ask, what would you have done? Would you have forgiven? Or would you have taken the chance, as I did, to show them that the people they discard often rise stronger than ever? Because remember, sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's not about screaming or fighting. It's about living in a way that proves them wrong every single day. Before we wrap up, let me thank you for listening to my story. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss another tale of betrayal and justice. And tomorrow, join me again because I'll tell you about the time my family tried to humiliate me on my 70th birthday. They mocked my pictures in front of everyone. But what I did next made them cry in shame. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.